EdTech Monday Africa is brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation's Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and MasterCard Foundation's Young Africa Works.
Hello Africa, welcome to EdTech Monday Africa. My name is Joy Doreen Bira, holding fort for Julie Gishuru on this edition. This month we give attention to coding for learners in Africa, and here is why. Information communication technologies are being increasingly integrated into education. On the EdTech Monday platform, we have discussed and continue to discuss how technology has improved access to education and are constantly looking at ways in which the intervention of technology as a tool improves outcomes and skills. So it's only right that this month we shift our focus to coding. Coding is basically the primary method for communicating with a computer, and it is using a language to give a computer an instruction to perform specific functions. Coding makes it possible for us to create things such as computer software, websites, apps or applications, and so much more. And the advantages of coding also go beyond giving them a head start for the future of work. Compared to other forms of numeric sciences, learning code can also enhance children's creativity, and coding also builds the logical thinking, among other advantages that we have. My panelists for this conversation are Olajide Ademola Ajayi, the Global Coordinator, Africa Code Week. He is a team manager at SAP Ireland and also passionate about EdTech, creativity and innovation. We also have Tabiso Naleli, STEM and 4IR Programs Manager, Siafunda CTC, South Africa. He works as a technology facilitator, researcher and project coordinator. We also have Hawi Birhanu, Chief Operations Officer, Anyone Can Code ICOG in Ethiopia. She has 4 years experience working in different roles at ICOG ACC and loves coding with children. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to EdTech Monday Africa. And to kick us off, I guess the question would be, with everyone talking about integration of ICTs into our education systems, it's only right that we ask the question, with the rising digitization and constant advances in technology, should we start thinking about coding as a basic skill like it is with literacy and numeracy in the different learning institutions across Africa? I want to start by hearing from Howie. What are your thoughts on this?
It's the new basic and essential skill for the 21st century. And I believe we are in a transition period now, because software and technology is becoming an enabler for every kind of industry. It's no longer just relegated to the tech industry. It's healthcare, it's agriculture, it's supply and chain and logistics. So pretty much everywhere we go, we're going to need to have these technical skills, and coding early on is the way to get us all innovating and contributing the value that we'll need in the future. Also, research done on the future work shows that almost 1 in every 2 jobs has a high risk of being automated by machines in the future. There is a fear that machine will be replacing human jobs in the future, and new jobs appears every day. So we don't know what kinds of jobs there will be down the road, and what we do know is what kind of skill sets are needed to interact with the changing world. So these skills are what we call the 21st century skills, such as the digital literacy or problem solving, analytical and critical thinking, and so on. So we learn those skills through coding. Everyone should make sure that they have the skills that they need.
All right. It should be incorporated in our learning institutions as well. Ade, I want to hear from you too regarding the same. Coding is important, but how important is it? Do we add it to our learning curriculum?
Learning how to code is like learning a new language, okay? And since language literacy and numeracy have always been part of the essential training that they give in schools or life skills that schools teach. We should add programming and language coding. You see me use this interchangeably, programming and coding literacy to the least of what is taught in the classroom. Coding is a universal language, and the goal of Africa Code Week is that every African student or child gain coding fluency, irrespective of what vocation path they intend to take in the future. Now, given the dependency of computers by human beings or by all of us on a daily basis, we use the phone, we use the dishwasher, we use everything. All of these things are coded. It's becoming increasingly important for everyone to learn about coding. And you may ask me that, why should every child learn how to code? Aside from the technical enablement that he gives to students or to any young learner, he also enables them to be able to think critically, logically. Like we said, there are certain skills and competencies that they learn that through coding. Patience is one of those things that you learn how to code. You learn that things don't always work the first time, that you try and try again because of the iterative nature of coding until it works. And language is all about communication. It's for you to be able to communicate your thoughts, your inner thoughts. And numeracy is about learning how to read numbers or to understand numbers. Coding helps in such a way that it helps improve numeracy skills. For the traditional math subject that they do in school, it actually gives form to all those abstract concepts that they get to hear or to get to learn in the math class. So, and for students to be able to communicate effectively, which is one of the things that they learn from coding, because it's learning how to use a language in the best form. It has syntax, it has structure, it has the same set of rules as learning English. So I think for me, it's not a question. It's essential that coding is introduced into the curriculum, and it's one of the subjects that I taught in the classroom. It's not only enough for students to be able to learn how to use technology, it's also equally important for them to know how to create with technology, because learning to use without being able to create can be equated to learning how to read without learning how to write. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it's essential. You may ask me that, are we late in implementing that? Yeah, we're late. We should have implemented this a few years ago.
And that's where I actually wanted to come in and say, there has to be reasons why we are a little bit slow when it comes to implementing code. Because as you might know, there are issues, underlying issues or underlying challenges. And those are the ones we want to get to so we can be able to say, are we late or are we justified in being late? The challenges, what are some of those?
Yeah, so I'll say the major challenge we have is equitable access to infrastructure. To be able to learn how to code, you need a computer. To be able to learn how to code, you need the internet, because some of the languages you can only use online. You can't use offline. So, we don't have this infrastructure in place in many African countries. So it's a big challenge, but it's a challenge that the government of the different countries would have to solve. It's a systemic failure on the part of the government. I think if we want to call it, we don't have the right tools and resources in place to teach coding in a lot of environment. And it depends on where you are in Africa. And that's why I talked about inequitable access to infrastructure. If you're in the major cities, you have access to the internet. If you're in the underserved communities, you don't have access to the internet. In some of the schools in the major cities, they have computers. In some of the schools in the rural areas, they don't have computers. So that's a major challenge that I see. But it's something that can be surmounted. We just need to be intentional. We need to be deliberate in our approach to solving that problem.
Okay, Tabiso, I want to hear from you because you facilitate some of these sessions that have to do with coding as well as Africa Code Week as well. But from where you sit, where do you think the challenge is? Why are we slow-paced in implementing coding as part of the learning curriculum?
You know, when it comes to challenges, we have so many. I would start from our governance. For example, from government, you have different kinds of departments, and from those departments, you need some budget, you need some policy, because, you know, each and every country, they have certain policies that needs to be followed. And then when it comes to, for example, in South Africa right now, we are in a process of getting coding and robotics into school as a subject. However, most of the township and rural or village schools, they don't have infrastructure, as Ade has said. And we've seen that for us to implement in certain schools, it is a challenge where you need to come with your own equipment and go to the school and do the training of coding. And some other schools, like the suburban schools, they have all the infrastructures that you can think of: nice computer labs, nice stable internet, all that. So we have the different kinds of communities that we attend to. So the first problem is infrastructure. And when it comes to infrastructure, especially in the rural areas, you'll find that you go to a school, and when you go to that school, you meet the kid that doesn't even know how to use a laptop. So they will tell you, it's my first time touching this thing. It's my first time knowing this is a mouse. So we start from those basics before we even say this is scratch. We need to start from the digital literacy. That's why sometimes when they ask me to say, what do you think of coding? I'm like, coding should be part of the Maslow's hierarchy needs, because it's one of the essentials that are needed, because without coding, we can't solve problems. And whenever you think of coding, you think of problem solving. You should think of transforming ideas in Africa and solutions for Africa that can make Africa better. And the future is bright, I must tell you, because these kids, when they start to say, now I know how to use the mouse, now I know where is Q, where is W, where is what, and then now you tell them about using Scratch. And initiatives such as Africa Code Week are initiatives that makes us or compel us or make things easier for us to get into schools to introduce this coding. The second problem is our teachers. Or the challenge with our teachers, they don't understand anything about computers or anything that has to do with digital literacy. And then when you look at them, you need to start with them before you can even go to students, because if they can buy an idea of saying, I know how to code and I can use coding in my maths class, then they will be able to adopt easily. And when you go to the government side of things, when you say to the government to say, this is what we need, they need to go step by step or follow certain processes so they can be able to approve something. That is another challenge, government side. So when you again go to a township in a rural area, you'll find that one house or 3 houses in 10, they only have a computer, one computer. And you find that whatever skill that you are teaching them at school, they want to follow up and do it at home, but then there's no equipment like your computers. But these days, I'm glad because there are apps that you can be able to use to learn coding. And which is one of, I could say it was a challenge, but now because the more apps that have been created, the more we know, okay, we can use the Africa Code Week app so they can use it at home to follow certain instructions. And when we come back to school, then we know that this is a way of doing it. So those are the challenges. And in South Africa, as we speak, we're having a problem of internet. Internet is very slow in certain areas. And, you know, there are different kinds of areas. There is where you can get a stable 4G, nice one. And then there's an area where they're still using 2G, 3G, where you can even run a code.org app. So I mean, currently we say, okay, because some other places you have challenges with computers, then we say, okay, there are programs that we run that we call unplugged coding, so that they can understand the concept of coding without even using the computer. Even at home, can use it however so. So yeah, I think those are the challenges that we are mostly facing when it comes to implementing coding or digital literacy trainings in South Africa and all in Africa.
All right, Howie, are there any unique challenges from your observation working with children in Ethiopia?
As we live in a resource-poor country, most schools don't have these resources. There is no network connection, or they might not have a computer labs.
Okay. And Tabiso, if I just might come back to you shortly, in terms of the opportunities to learn code, how accessible can we make this to young people, young learners who are in the future going to be the drivers of the future of work?
Joy, I would say there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, there are many websites. Even me personally, there are some certain curriculums that I take and use them. So firstly, maybe that I should be talking about when it comes to opportunities. I will start with ACW. Africa Code Week has all the curriculum that you can use. For example, from a teacher side of things and a student side of things, from a young kid as like grade R, a 6-year-old or 3-year-old, because we are teaching them Scratch. I mean, from that age until now, there are free courses online. The MOOCs, the massive open online courses that you can get. You have your MIT courseware, open course, where you can get full course from MIT with very quality curriculum that you can use in your own country. Like for now, there are certain curriculums that we take, and then after taking them, we localize them with our own languages so that they can understand it easier and make examples of our own situations. For example, I would talk about teaching a grandmother how to code, because recently we've been having some classes with grandmothers and mothers, as in like 50 years of age. They were learning how to code with the ACW curriculum. So, I mean, there are so many opportunities which are free. But then, here's the problem again. Internet. Data is expensive. So others, they cannot download the curriculum. Others, for example, for you to use the code.org curriculum, you cannot use it offline, but then you need to connect to the internet. So data is expensive, and they are trying by all means to get the Wi-Fi hotspots, and they are all, maybe some days they are dead. And you need to go to them again to give them with a USB, or no, you know what, come to my place and then copy and then give it to you. Or you can come and use our resources at our centers, you see. So the opportunities are there. I would say you can go to Coursera. There's a free course. YouTube, you can use it, but all of them, they need internet.
All right, so we do have young people, so many young people with disabilities, or young people living with disabilities, and we also have so many other young people around the continent who are living in countries that are not originally their countries. For a better way to put it, displaced young learners. How do they tap into these opportunities? Because I know that there are certain websites that you've mentioned, and I can mention one offhand. I think that is W3 Schools. That has like free coding, HTML lessons there. But what are some of the things we need to consider when we are talking about opportunities available to young learners with disabilities and those living in displaced communities?
In the past weeks, I was having a session with the disabled guys, people living with disabilities on the Zoom, as I was training them on opportunities available in the tech area, because when in South Africa now we are pushing a memorandum, let us say 4IR, a fourth industrial revolution, and we are trying to include them. So what happened in the class is very interesting because if I don't know how to do sign language, and apparently there was someone who was actually interpreting what I was saying through them. And I think it's possible to reach out to more of people living with disabilities, because I saw when we were teaching them, it was like a normal class. Because at first I was scared to say, how will they understand? But then the most interesting thing is they asked more questions than I ever thought, and very sensible questions to say, no, this is not happening. So we are trying by all means to get the tech that can be used for young people that are living disabilities, whether it can be physical or it can be mentally. But the opportunity is that most of them, they understand that the world now moves to the tech world or digital era. And they understand that whenever they're using the cell phones, there are apps that they can assist them to communicate. There are apps that can assist them to know if I am doing coding, this is how can I do it, like that communication. So that's what I'm saying. Coding is very important because such as these challenges of people with disabilities, you can be able to create some apps or softwares that will actually assist them. For example, in Microsoft, there's an app that you can use to actually read for you if you can't see, you see. And then it will read you what you have typed or what you code. And recently there are brains that you can use to type coding. I mean, there are opportunities for them, and we are still looking at learning some of the sign languages, learning how we can actually work on that. I think there's a big opportunity for them, and then still we include them in whatever programs that we have.
All right. Ade, a lot of what Tabiso is saying has a lot to do with being on the internet. When he talks about apps, you can hardly access an application if you're not online. And have we considered or thought about offline learning and personalized learning as a way to involve those learning or learners with disabilities, those in displaced communities? Have we thought about the offline learning for coding?
At ACW, our end goal is to enable everybody, every learner, and technology is an enabler. So we're leveraging technology to do that. And I think Tabiso already explained and mentioned some of the sites where you could learn. So what we've done is we didn't assume that this would happen naturally, that every child would be able to learn how to code and teachers would understand how to teach this in the classroom. What we've done is we've taken the responsibility of creating lesson plans and curriculum support resources that teachers can take straight into the classroom. And because of the hands-on experiential form that we've designed this curriculum resources, this support resources for teachers, it's inclusive. It makes it relatable to everybody. It makes it easy for somebody who has a certain form of disability to still be able to gain comprehension of what the teacher is teaching, because it's so I know internet is a problem, but we created a lot of resources with focus on using this offline. So we call them coding unplugged resources, meaning they still learn computational thinking, they learn critical thinking using cards and other resources that they do not require to use the internet for. So, and we make it very inclusive. So last year, we must have trained over 3,000 students living with disability or some form of disability or on one form of spectrum or the other in coding. This happened in Ghana, this happened in Mozambique, it happened in Nigeria, and a few other countries where we focus specifically on students living with disability because we want to make Africa Code Week as inclusive as possible. So, and the subjects that we created the cards for, like I said, we made them very relatable to people, like climate change, something that would be mind on for the young learners and be able to relate to and be able to use and get them engaged and excited about the subject matter. So we're already focusing on that, and we already have enough resources to be able to cater for that group of people, like Tabisi already said.
All right. And so the Africa Code Week was started with the goal of making sure that our young coders or our young learners are creating code that is problem solving. You've mentioned climate change as one of them, but how are we doing on our milestones, on our achievements so far?
The North Star for us is to get government and education stakeholders to take coding into the curriculum. We've been able to achieve this in 12 countries in Africa so far. So I must say we have been able to move the needle. We're not where we should be, considering we started this in 2015. And it's not due to the fact that we haven't tried enough. It's down to the fact that it takes so much to get things into the curriculum because of policy changes will be, a lot of change, change management is required in bringing a new strategy or a new order of things into an existing structure. Curriculum will remain one of those things that countries don't change on a frequent basis. In 2019, I spent a lot of time traveling around Africa, meeting with ministers of education and, evangelizing the need to change the curriculum and to include coding into the curriculum. And it wasn't as if we met with a lot of resistance. You could tell that they're willing to do this, that they believe the time is now to do this because of the fourth industrial revolution and the 21st century skills and all of these things that we bandy around. Everybody's aware, the stakeholders are aware that the change needs to happen, even though it should have happened a few years ago. But the way we evangelize this is that the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The next best time is now. Let's try to do it now. So like in some countries, they said to us, can you create the curriculum and present it to us on a platter of gold? I will be more than happy to implement it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We created, you can't call it a curriculum, because the state government, the government will be responsible for their own curriculum. So what we've done is we created a curriculum support resources that they could adapt and adopt and use as they wish in their respective countries. Yeah.
When it comes to women and you look at the lower levels of education, we have more female teachers at that level, and Tabiso and Ade have mentioned that there's need for teacher training. But what does it take to get more young women involved in coding?
There needs to be an opportunities for women to learn and experiment coding. They should be given space and they should opportunities to participate in activities such as coding. The other things is inspiring them by bringing forward success stories of female role models and industry professionals, entrepreneurs, or any leaders in STEM. So that's it. And the third one I say is early exposure. In fact, this works for both gender. The first contact with the computer should be at the earliest time possible. So we need to help our girls to start learning coding when they are young, before the social stigma sets in, and help them stay involved. That's the third one. Last but not least, there must be platforms that work to bridge the gender gap in technology. The young girls can confidently pursue the 21st century opportunities and where they will be to be feel welcomed.
One of the offshoots of Africa Code Week is the Women Empowerment Program, where we bring a couple of women from across Africa into a cohort and train them on so many different things, from classroom facilitation to coding to robotics to design thinking, and all of those things that they need to be able to engage or encourage more girls into technology. So that runs every year, and we're starting the next one in July also, which is going to be the third or fourth cohort of that.
All right, I like that. And as we bring this to a close, of course, the future of coding is bigger than what we're possibly talking about and some of the suggestions that we've come up with. But what does the future of coding education look like for Africa? Where do we move this to from this point forward? I'll start with you, Howie.
The coding education will expand and spread across the continent, integrated in the curriculum in our formal schooling and universities. But obviously, integrating coding into the curriculum is not as easy as it sounds. It would take some time to first provide the basic needs, such as the electricity and water for many poor schools in the continents. This is, of course, from the government point of view. That shouldn't stop us from thinking of ways to bypass these setbacks to provide coding for everyone. There are many tech companies and coding academies that are making waves in the continent of Africa at the moment, and where only a few % of public schools have access to computer. So the other thing is, almost many African countries have taken steps to reform the ICT sector and expand the broadband capacity. The governments are, for this part, has expressing their interest in this regard. So all of this is promising, and I see bringing the coding literacy to everyone across the continent, and I see this happen in the future.
Okay, there's lots of promise. Tabiso, to you, do you see a possibility of us getting to a point of saying we now have coding education?
Yeah, the future is bright when it comes to education, especially now in South Africa. Next year, as we speak, 2023, we are starting a subject that is called robotics and coding in South Africa. And then it shows that now, if now we're going to be learning coding at school, that means more solutions, more products, more apps are coming from Africa, because it would have been started from the young age, So when they said, okay, they'll be introducing the coding and robotics, it was a moment where we said, okay, now, because we have been doing this for a long time, it's where now we can support schools, we can support the Department of Basic Education to say, this is what you need to do for you guys to be able to understand what is it that kids can learn. For example, when it comes to that curriculum that is currently being on a draft and the policy already is being passed, it's just that, it went for, there's something that is called Umalusi for appraisal and quality assurance. It was said that next year it's starting, and already I think 50 schools, they are doing a pilot this year, and teachers have been trained. And that's what makes me to be joyful. Then when it comes to the future of coding, it will look bright. We'll be knowing what exactly are we going with it. There will be products that are wearable. There will be products in the IoT space. There will be products, anything that you can do. If I can get a product that will make my things easier from a kid, they are very creative. We've seen with Africa Code campaigns. We've seen with the classes that we run. Holiday programs, like next week, we are starting a holiday program on coding. When the school closes for holidays, we always have the holiday program to keep them active. We call them from the streets, then put them inside here at the center. Then we teach them coding for the whole the holidays. They spend the holidays with us. So the future of coding is very bright in Africa. And I believe that we'll surpass every country that has started before us, because we have a more massive talent in Africa.
Massive talent in Africa. The future is promising, it's bright, and it's here. The future is here, the future is now. I think that's the thing that we keep living out. And Ade, I want to hear from you. We keep talking about the future, but the future is now, it's today, and we need to take it forward. So what does the future look like?
Like I said, a lot of government, a lot of countries are now looking at coding because we all know that for Africa to be creative, we need to put technology in the mix somewhat, and people would need to be able to use this technology to create stuff. Nobody will come in to create these things for us. We depended on a lot of things being imported to us. You don't need to. The mindset back in the day would be, why do you need to learn how to create it? Somebody will create it anyway. All you need to do is just study hard, go to school, get good grades, so you can work for those people who are creating it, and so you can earn money to buy it. But that's changing now. You can see a lot of organizations, a lot of startups springing up in Africa, being bought over by organizations in the US, or even organizations in Africa now buying companies in the US, buying companies in Europe. We're seeing that reverse, and it can only get better. It's a train that is moving, and if we don't jump on it now, any country that is not jumping on the train right now will be left behind. So the future is very bright. Coding is come to stay. It's going to go into the curriculum of so many to learn this. It's going to come naturally, and that's already starting. We're already seeing that evolving.
All right. And that's the best way to bring this conversation to a close. Thank you all so much for making time to share your views and insights on EdTech Monday Africa. My name is Joy Doreen Bira, and until next month, do look out for all our programs and editions of EdTech Monday on our YouTube channel. That is the MasterCard Foundation YouTube channel, and the Young Africa Works Facebook page for more of EdTech Monday content. Bye for now.
EdTech Monday Africa was brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation's Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT and MasterCard Foundation's Young Africa Works.